Hello and welcome to this Leaders in RPA. Today, I'm Wodecki from AI Business. We'll be speaking with David Jenness, Events and Communities Manager at IBM. David, welcome. How's it going?
It's going really well. Happy to be here.
Thank you very much for your time. For those not in the know, David is a writer and public speaker who specializes in communicating the benefits of new technologies to business decision makers. For IBM's Business Automation division, he coordinates user groups and advisory boards, manages the virtual community, and produces and hosts IBM events. And on that point about events, David, you actually recently led the IBM's RPA Build a Bot Challenge. Can you talk to us a bit about this, what led to this, and what was the overall goal of the challenge?
It was one of the most exciting things I've done in the last couple of years at IBM. As a community manager, we have almost 300,000 people in our community. These are customers, business partners. To have something like a challenge, to challenge them is really exciting because then they respond. So IBM acquired an RPA solution, a software solution, and added it into its portfolio in 2020. And one of the features of it is this low code angle, where someone who's not a trained developer could actually open it up and start to work with it. So we thought that is a really good reason to see if that's true. Let's have a contest. So we scraped up $20,000. We created a first prize, second prize, third prize, and a couple of special mentions. And we asked people to try to solve a social problem or solve a serious work problem. And it was absolutely wonderful what happened after that.
So talk to us a bit about how you put this on, because this wasn't just US or UK, it was worldwide. How did you go about putting this on and publicizing it?
We tried one that was kind of a homegrown one that we did last summer. We were able to use 7 countries, offer it to 7 countries, but we proved that it worked. We had a really good experience with that. So in this case, we engaged with a partner that works with IBM on call for code, which is something most people around the world in the tech business have heard of. And they're quite experienced at running these. And what it meant was that we had a special platform for anybody that wanted to join. They could go, they could download the software to start working with it. They could ask a mentor for help. Hey, this is what I'm thinking of building. Does that make sense to you? Or I need some help with this technology. And then we had a set of judges. So it was also a judging platform. And we would have periodic events where we would tell people different things about the software as the contest unfolded. It was about 6 weeks long. We ran it over the Christmas holiday, and we had a lot of students and a lot of business partners who said, yeah, I wouldn't be able to do it if it wasn't during a holiday break because I'm so busy. So it worked out pretty well. And by the end of January, we had about 65 projects, and our judges went to work. So.
And speaking of which, I mean, you started out with 7 countries, as you said.
What
was the response?
We had, I think we had 2,100 people join and say they were interested in it from about 116 countries, 116. And as I say, about 65 projects, 35 of them I think were really, really worthwhile. So we had some stiff competition when we hit that deadline. And our judges, got to work. They had some criteria. How creative were you? How innovative were you? And is it even feasible? Was it, did they come up with a solution that is actually buildable? And so once the judges were done, we ended up with our 6 winners.
So can you tell us a bit about some of those winners, some of the notable submissions?
Yeah, this was really interesting. We talk about this idea of tech for good, and this was really satisfying to see. Now, of course, as you might expect, we saw a lot of COVID-related type of problems being addressed, where to find a vaccination, entrance to buildings and stadiums and restaurants, being automated in some way rather than standing in a long line showing your Vax card, which is the model. We saw some healthcare, some general healthcare kind of solutions, a lot of them around improving education. And one in particular that was our second place winner in Sri Lanka and some other developing countries, when pandemic lockdown hit, all schools closed, and if you didn't have access to internet, and many, many don't in those countries, you were stuck with broadcast television and a state teacher talking to you over the television. So this solution gave you an idea with a cell phone that you could submit questions and at least get some interactivity going if you were stuck in that broadcast television mode, and at least help with education. So some really cool solutions came out like that. And I'm trying to think of some others that, one thing that came out of the pandemic is that and the 2 years of lockdown, is we've seen a real increase in depression. And one of the groups, and they won third place, addressed depression from an organizational point of view. So if you're a school, or if you're a business, or even a government agency, you could set up this special chatbot, and people could take a 9-question survey designed to reveal whether or not you're severely depressed or even suicidal. And companies are starting to adopt this wonderful solution. And then it will book an appointment with you with a mental health professional. It took the whole thing end to end. So first of all, help identify if there are some issues or some employees that are struggling, and then get them to help, and do it all in a way that protects their privacy and the other things that are required when you deal with mental health issues. So really creative stuff that we saw coming in.
So you've done the contest now. We're a bit far away from the next December holiday, but what has come out of this, and what can we expect with the next contest going forward in the future for you?
Well, we always try to, incrementally improve and get suggestions. People were liked very much the swim lanes that we provided. You had some categories, some criteria, and they were very clear. But there were even suggestions like, why don't we pick a single problem and let everybody try to attack that single problem, as opposed to saying a social problem and leave it up to you. So that we might actually move to a very specific kind of problem, an industry problem, and see what could happen there. That's the kind of discussions we're having. The other interesting thing, though, is some of these students and or business partners who were winners or even finalists are continuing to work on the solution and looking for funding, looking for customers perhaps to embrace it, and really presenting what they submitted to the contest as a proof of concept, as it were. And they all, almost to 100%, had some form of AI in it. Really interesting to see artificial intelligence, whether it was, ways to recognize data on a document, that is being submitted, to ways to interpret and visualize, how many of the respondents are depressed in your company. So AI being, totally woven through all of this. Very, very interesting stuff.
And it's only going to see increasing deployments going forward. So the importance of this challenge going forward is immense. David, one final point I want to talk to you about is how important, you mentioned obviously second place was from Sri Lanka. How important is it that this challenge and challenges like these are penetrating those emerging and developing markets?
I think it's essential. What it shows is that there's amazing energy bubbling up. We had submissions from Peru, Sri Lanka, some other countries that you would call developing countries, and they were attacking, you think global but act local. They were attacking local problems, but applying, modern technology to them. And it was exciting to see. And you could also see how it could translate into other areas of the world. What works in Sri Lanka would work in other developing countries. What was working in Peru could work other places. So just great to get that energy and that excitement, and to see that there's a lot of talent all around the world at innovating, being creative, and trying to solve problems. And it's that idealism, I think, that really got me excited about this project. We're all in business. We have our business objectives. We have our different KPIs that we need to meet for our business, but to go above and beyond and to see innovation and inspiration is really, really kind of gives you the reason why you do all of this. It was very satisfying.
David, IBM, thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciated. I'm Ben Wodecki from AI Business. Again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ben. It was a pleasure to talk to you.